When you were young, you probably walked to school alone, you climbed trees, you were allowed out until dark. Those days, it seems, are over because new research shows today's parents place huge restrictions on their children despite having lots of freedom when they themselves were kids. Well, psychologist Emma Kenny joins us in a moment. First, here's Tiffany Royce.
Seems a carefree place when you're a child. It all appears a lot more dangerous when you're a parent yourself.
Nowadays, we're also worried about our children. We're stopping them from having the freedom that we enjoyed. 2/3 of under 15-year-olds aren't allowed on public transport.
1 in 4 aren't even allowed to stay the night at a friend's house.
You just don't know what's going on. I think they're safer off play in the back garden, take them to a park, but definitely not outside.
I don't let them play outside, but we're fortunate we've got a nice garden, so they've got a nice and close, safe environment there to play in.
I wouldn't let them go to the park or play out on the street on their own.
It's a world away from when most parents were growing up. In 1971, 80% of children aged 7 to 8 went to school on their own, but by 1990 this had dropped to less than 10%. 71% of adults used to play near their home every day, compared to only 21% of children today.
We were able to go out and play on our own, and the phrase was, you know, off you go and don't come back till you're hungry, and I'm sure everyone will identify with that. Whereas now our children are very much confined to the house and the garden.
So the question is, without the freedom to roam, will our children ever learn to fend for themselves?
Emma Kenny joins us, as I said. Emma, good morning to you. The media often gets blamed for this, scaring parents into thinking there's stranger danger on every corner.
I think the media is obviously going to highlight any specific cases that impact on us, such as child abduction. But the reality is that it's a microscopic amount of situations that actually take place to reflect this. For most of us, as parents, whatever the media is saying, you know, we don't have to believe that that applies everywhere to everyone. We have to be very careful because, actually, if we put in this stereotype across the board, and clearly your statistics indicate that that is what's happening, we need to be really understanding that this is not the way to act as parents. We need to realise and take stock that our children need freedom. They need to develop, and that happens by playing out.
Yeah, but what if is an extraordinarily powerful mindset, isn't it? You know, no matter what we say, no matter what you say, parents will say, if it happens to my child, I would never forgive myself.
And you know what, if it happened to my little boys, of course I would not forgive myself, but at the same time I have to weigh that up against the fact that for the rest of their lives I need them to find resilience. Psychologically, I need them to feel that they can take educated risks, and those educated risks begin when I give them the freedom to start creating a mindset that says, you know what, on the whole, this world is a really safe place to be in. And the irony is, to create a country like the UK, like Britain itself, which really does have an amazing amount of protection, police service that's wonderful, health service that's amazing, to not then utilise that and say that's why we can let our kids out, almost seems to deny really where we've achieved, you know?
I think it's also about the fact that people do let their children out eventually. It's just that it seems to be a couple of years later. I mean, you know, you're talking about letting your kid, for example, travel on their own to school or go to the corner shop or whatever. Is there a kind of age? Because surely it's up to it kind of depends on the children, doesn't it?
I certainly believe that from my own experience of being a parent and in my profession, children start to ask. My children are 5 and 7. My little boys both play outside of my house and down to the bottom of the street. They know their boundaries. They go into the shop on their own. I will park the car and allow them to go into the shop on their own and walk off, because you know what? They're forging their own sense of independence. For me, if your child can ride a bike, then why aren't you allowing them to ride the bike round the block? They have to learn road sense. If they fall off their bike, they will be okay. We all did it. And the problem is parents are very often saying, when we were young, it was fantastic, we did this, but now the roads are bad. But actually, most of us don't live on busy main roads. Let's take our own experience of having the playground of childhood and give that back to our children. That's how you'll create secure adults. I think age-wise, realistically, when they're starting to say, Mummy, I want to go and call for my friend, they're alerting you to the fact that developmentally, they're at a point where they feel confident. Don't break that confidence, because you won't end up with children who go into very, very successful adults in that context.
Emma Kenny, thank you very much. And